Doing?
I'm doing great. This was really fun. What I loved about it, and what I loved is we have the hate element of let's see if we can get my family to hate you. Um, what I wanted to know from you, well, what were the important elements from the script that really spoke to you that when you was reading it, you really started to visualize and see kind of in your own image or your own inspiration?
That's a good question. I think that the thing that stood out to me immediately with the script was the scene where Graham comes home and sees that his ex is there at the house. And how do you show that? And how long had the ex been there for? And what are the clues? Or, what's the first word you say when you walk into a home thinking that you're going to go surprise your family, and instead of your family being there all sad that you're not there, your ex is there with them and they're quite happy. I think that really excited me, the challenge of figuring out what that would be. I also think that the moments of the movie and the script where the characters got along and started to figure out why they liked each other in the first place was very interesting to me, because you see them bickering, you see them doing these little games to each other to make each other's lives a nightmare. But you also got to wonder, like, why were they together in the first place? What do they like when they like each other versus when they don't like each other? And that challenge was something I was excited to explore as well.
And what I liked about this, and also with rom-coms in general, it doesn't succeed without proper body chemistry. And I loved how you picked up on like the subtle movements of a look of the eye, or even just a disgust at first. Can you talk about those elements and finding the silence in between those moments?
Mm, absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think physicality and whether it's subtle, like a look, or, like a squint, or even a big body move, blocking, where are they sitting at a table and how are they moving next to somebody else is such a huge part of it. And Leighton, on one hand, very physical in her movement, in the way she walks, in the way she uses her body for comedy. Robbie, more subtle, more like up here, more with the eyes and the squinting and the mouth and the remarks. And that was a really fun thing to juggle. And some of it you don't even know you have until you're looking at the daily footage, and you're looking at, like, you're just seeing the screen of what it is versus being there on the day. And we were just hyper cognizant of it. I mean, a lot of times in a rom-com, you sort of, an audience is left with a close-up and it's like, well, what was this character thinking? What is this character thinking in that moment? And how am I supposed to leave a scene? And usually in a rom-com, the way you end a scene is like a close-up or a shot of a character having some sort of remark. That's the emotion that you're left with moving forward.
Right. So was it a rehearsal process, or was it just reading through the script and going through the blocking kind of in your head?
My process was always show up to, there was never a formal rehearsal. We would always, and I don't really like to necessarily rehearse extensively. I like to bring the actors in. Let's go get dinner. Let's have the script out. Let's talk through the scenes. Let's just say the words. Don't worry about acting. And then when you come to set, I like to bring people to set 100, meaning that they're in hair and makeup, and particularly in the house where the set's already essentially pre-built. It's all the props are there and everything's there. So we walk into a set, and then I like to just play, and let's just say, okay, let's say the words again. Okay, let's say them again. And then let's start to move around a little bit. Where would you go? Would you go over here? Why would you go over here? Is the game of the scene that you're sort of hiding behind this, are you hiding behind the mixer machine and that's what you're using every time he talks? And that's my favorite part of the whole process, is sort of layering and layering and starting to figure out what the scene actually becomes. Sometimes I think if you rehearse too much, it can take away the spontaneity of it all. And the discovery that you can have in the space, to what I like to say is making discoveries, which is just an easy way of saying, okay, maybe we didn't like that first take, but let's keep digging down on what we can discover here.
Right. Now, what I love about, Christmas movies in general, very bright, very colorful. We have the snow, everything's falling. But what I want to know is how does that set influence how you film a scene?
It allowed, having a house that was like 360 degrees, our set and our decorations allowed a lot of freedom. We had two cameras, so oftentimes you have to put some, cross coverage or just two different cam ops in the space, and it just allowed for more of a play. It just it was like more of like a, for a Christmas movie, it was shot and performed a lot just like a play, where you could kind of come out into the stage and create and engage and do stuff and play with the props and feel very freeing. And uh it was a real house. It wasn't a, it wasn't a set. It was like a real home that we decorated. So I think that made it feel more real as well.
Now, I was wondering. Now, this story deals with still keeping in contact with your ex's family, which can be tricky. So I was wondering, just like in general, as you was reading, do you kind of agree with that action of still keeping in contact with the ex's family?
It's so funny because even after having making the film, I don't know if I have a consensus. I do think if you like your ex's family, why can't you keep in touch with them? Just because you break up with someone doesn't mean that their family's, dead to you now. I think those are human beings that you can keep in touch with. Maybe it's weird, but if the family's into it and they miss you and you miss the family, then I think you should be allowed to keep in touch. And even more, maybe you shouldn't have broken up with that person. And if you show up to their house during the holidays, you might get back together.
Ooh, I like that. Also, it deals with comedy, obviously, but there's a lot of sadness. Kind of. This is a couple that did break up. We do see Stephen and Amell, without any much spoilers, kind of not taking it well.
Mm.
Neither is really taking it well. So, how do you balance both the comedic with the drama so that they both influence each other?
Yeah, Robbie does a great job of being pessimistic, grounded, and mm, romantic at the same time. And I think that we have a feel good ending, right? I think that's a big thing for us too. We have a feel good third act. And I think so long as you sort of land there, it's okay to go a little bit darker and a little bit more sad somewhere in the middle. Because that's real. That's like life, And so also the holidays can be quite sad for some people, but there is optimism behind everything. And that's what I was excited by as well. I was excited it had a happy ending, despite some of the directions it goes.
So, as you as a director, do you prefer to like the ending, the mood at the end kind of determines what you'll film from the beginning to the middle?
I have this like weird theory that audiences really value a third act of a movie, that you can start your movie off okay
Mhm.
and great if it's an amazing beginning. Your second act can be like the weakest. You don't want to get boring, but like you can be weak, but you need to have a really good third act. Like I think when a critic or an audience member ends a movie, you remember how it ends. You're left with this feeling and this image. So if you have a slow start, and no one's turning it off or they're in the theater, they're not going to get up, then like if you land your ending, that's really important. And what can also happen is you can have an amazing beginning and middle. And if you have a subpar ending, you're kind of left there thinking, meh, you know what I mean? And that's the final emotion. That's how you leave the date. And you want to leave on a great impression, or you want to leave with someone thinking about something. No, maybe I should call my ex, or what does it mean to be single during the holidays? You just want to leave with a thought or a feeling. And I think I'm that's just what I've experienced as a filmmaker and trying to engage with audiences.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for speaking to me. I really love this movie.
Oh,
It made me
thank you for
happy.
watching it, and thank you for making time. Yeah, appreciate you.
You know.